In response to the flurry of inquiries that have been coming to NINAS Secretariat concerning where we are in what we set out to do with constitutional force majeure, here's our response. Here's our answer. You will recall that the stated objective, the ground objective of the constitutional force majeure in the attempt to implement the consensus we had built against the constitution of death was to target the election as the venue for the fight for what will happen, to target that 2023 election in a manner that will collapse the election in circumstances that revolve around the constitution itself. That's we are rejecting the election on account of our rejection of that constitution and the unitary union of death it imposes on us in that order. Look at this domino 2, and if we back pedal to domino 1, you will see clearly, coming from your right towards the left, you will see the pillar we marked election, the next pillar constitution, the next pillar union, and underneath the pillar of election you will see the lever of the alliance, the three blocks, focusing their efforts together. You see the arrow that they press, they pressure together in one direction to topple the election as a mark of their rejection of the constitution that make them, slaves in their homeland. Our report today is that that strategic objective has been met. You may argue as you deem fit amongst those who do not know how such things are done. Those who were expecting people to, because when people heard about force majeure, they thought there would be riot on the street. The system was already sharpening its machete to behead people who are coming to do. They didn't know it was a very sophisticated thing that will put election in disarray. And we were saying it every day for 3 years. You see, this election, we'll do whatever we need to do to sabotage it from producing an outcome that will stand. And that is a mark of our rejection of the constitution by which the winner of that election will govern. And when that constitution goes down from the angle it will be attacked, then we'll come to the realization that we have no union. That union that is erected upon that constitution will go down with that constitution. Where are we today? The election went as badly as it could go, such that the system had to sacrifice the constitution to save the election. That was what the Supreme Court did in October of 2023. That was what INEC was doing at the time they were declaring the one who didn't win the election. They both waived the 25% required by that. It was the pressure from all the sides that they were just trying to rescue something from, because the people had woken up. Everybody was now doing things they would normally not have done before. And so bottom line is that the election went into a spin. The system had to sacrifice the constitution to save the election. And then we're interpreting their actions to them now. The union is at an end because the constitution that held it together, you buried it. Remember in the broadcast where we were telling them that if they chose to waive that 25%, it means that that constitution which we have been trying to put to death has now been abandoned to die on the street by the Supreme Court, and that we're going to join them. We are joining them. Where we're going now is that we're going to demonstrate that there's no union. And if anybody is wondering how we came to that conclusion, the National Assembly that wants to write a new constitution has only confirmed to all of you that the constitution by which we have been operating, by which we have been unionized against our will, is dead. That's why they're looking for a new one. If the constitution was still alive, they would be doing their amendment and boasting. And so the strategic objective for the constitutional force majeure, look at it. Election down, constitution down, union down. The only thing remaining now, transition to go and rework the union in terms of who and who wants to federate. They will identify themselves by referendum. Then they will define the formations in which they are going to relate. That's what becomes the structure, whether they want to be in 4 regions or 6 regions or whatever be the formation, but certainly not 36 states. For the lunatics that are talking about carving out more of this, you know, we are the vanguard of the campaign. NINAS is the vanguard framework for the campaign for self-determination for the constituent components, meaning that little Isoko, little Ogun, little Ishekiri, all of them will be, you know, in their space in that self-determination. They will be custodians and operators of their sovereignty. So to that extent, we will say confidently that Nigeria has been brought to where we wanted it to land. A logjam, a constitutional logjam. If anybody thinks that what happened on February 25 in 2023 has become basis for a 4-year presidential term that will not be challenged by anything, no. The election ended inconclusive. The outcome remains the, you know, interregnum. What you are celebrating as a president is, yes, there's somebody in government house pretending to be Nigeria's president, but the Supreme Court will not place itself. We will not allow, since the right to make constitution is exclusive to the sovereign constituent components, and we have laid a charge against the legitimacy of the constitution that was imposed on us. Nobody is able to make constitution and impose on us, including the one Absalom Abaka did. And so, if we are tolerating that for us to get peacefully to the table of discussion, and then the Supreme Court, that is a product of that constitution, will now abandon that constitution and place itself above the prescriptions of that constitution, we are the ones saying, let's take down this constitution. But until we get to that discussion table, we also said it in that our force majeure, let those who have not read that constitutional force majeure, for their own good, for their own sake, their ignorance will only afflict them, will only cause them to perish, like the Bible already condemned them. Because we stated clearly why we are saying what we are saying and why we are going to do what we are doing, what we are going to do. We said clearly that if after all the consultations we can't find common ground, then we will step forward to where we reconsider our allegiance to that constitution. What is the meaning of a reconsideration of allegiance? Go and read the operative part. If you can't read all, read the operative part, where that 5-point proposition, you know, were listed. From the word accordingly downwards. From the word accordingly. When you are reading some charter or some kind of resolution, when you come to the word accordingly, pay attention, because that is now the action that will follow from all of what has been laid out. And so we are saying that the constitutional force majeure succeeded 100% in its objectives in bringing Nigeria to that constitutional logjam. You can see we are not at war. I think there's confusion, but at least we are still discussing. I mean, it's still being discussed. It may not be in a round table setting. There are people sitting in Abuja and talking over our heads about what they're going to do. There are others sitting or standing in Civic Center in Lagos saying, you must now call a meeting of the sovereign constituent components, who will have to decide how to reconfigure their union. And if they can't get it, if for any reason they are not able to find common ground, we must disperse forthwith. That is where, so the discussion is going on everywhere. But NINAS is trying to bring it to where it can produce an outcome. What is that outcome? Successor protocols. Whether as one political union or independent units of successor sovereign state entities that will emerge from the defunct Federation of Nigeria.